know if that was a good idea to put one of those Thin Minute Hearts in my mouth before I eat this one, but here we go. Part A, given theta is 170 degrees, we want to change that measure to radians. Give the exact measure and its approximate value to the nearest 100th. So from above, or from our calculations, we can figure out that 1 degree is pi over 180 radians. So if you wanted to find 170 degrees, you would just have to multiply this side by 170 and that side by 170. Yes. It would be 170 pi over 180 radians. And you do not need to reduce that. You could write it as 17 pi over 18. It's really easy to reduce, but you don't have to. If we wanted to find out what it was as an approximation to the nearest hundredth, we'd go to our calculator. 170 pi divided by 180, 2.967. So to the nearest hundredth would be 2.97. Part B. Given theta equals negative 12 pi over 11 radians, can we sketch that without changing it to degrees? So one of the things that you're going to be well, especially at the beginning, is your mind doesn't work well in radians. But we're going to start thinking in radians. So right now we've got negative 12 pi over 11 radians, and we're going to draw a sketch. Right? If I told you this was like negative 190 degrees, you'd be like, oh, that's easy. I know how to sketch that. But in radians, it is a little bit difficult to begin with. First of all, what do you know? It's a negative angle in standard position, so it's going to be going around this direction. It's going to be going around clockwise. Okay? You know that all the way around a circle, so here's 0 radians, all the way around would be 360 degrees. All the way around is 2 pi radians. Does it make sense that halfway around is pi radians? Just like that's 180 degrees. The angle that we're trying to sketch is negative 12 over 11 times pi. Can you see that 12 over 11 is a little bit more than 1? We have a little bit more than 1 of pi. Starting from here, can you see that this would be negative pi? And we need to go a little bit more than that. So I'm going to start by drawing it like that. How much more? Well, we have negative 12 pi over 11. The number on the bottom is 11. Can you imagine this from 0 to pi being split up into 11 equal sections? So I tried to make this last little section here 1/11. Probably made it a little bit big. But that's how I could think. This would be negative 11 pi over 11, and then I need to go one more 11th to get to negative 12 pi over 11. Now, had you changed this first to degrees, you might have been able to draw that even quicker because you're more familiar with degrees. So how much is negative 12 pi over 11 in degrees? Well, what do we know? We know that 1 radian is 180 over pi degrees. So if I wanted to find out what 12 negative 12 pi over 11 is, I would have to multiply both sides by negative 12 pi over 11. What's going to happen to the pi's? They're going to cancel out. And so now I just have, I'm going to write this out just because something neat happens. Negative 12 times 180 over 11. Go to my calculator to figure out what that is. Negative 12 times 180 divided by 11. Negative 196 degrees. Does this look like negative 180 plus another 16 degrees? Negative 196 degrees. Shortcut. What do you think the shortcut is for changing radians to degrees if there's a pi involved? In other words, right here, oh, I hit my highlighter again. Here's a pi, negative 12 pi over 11. And it happens to be equal to negative 12 times 180 over 11 after I simplify. I could just switch the pi to 180. Love my highlighters that are low on ink. Perfect. Oh, I can't even scroll up. But in part C, it wants you to change 7.5 radians to degrees. There's no pi in that question, so you can't use the shortcut. But the shortcut, see where I said earlier you were going to be tempted to say pi was equal to 180? The shortcut, like, pi is still 3.14, but pi radians is 180 degrees. So in part C, we know that 1 radian is equal to 180 over pi degrees. Another way that I remember that this 1 radian is the 180 over pi and not pi over 180. So remember our triangle at the beginning where we made it just a little bit less than 60 degrees? Pi is pretty close to 3. 180 divided by 3 is 60 degrees. So pi being a little bit more than 3 will make that a little bit less than 60 degrees. I don't know if that helps you also remember that. But now we want to convert and find out what 7.5 radians is. Well, we would just multiply 180 over pi times 7.5. As an exact answer, we would get 1,350 over pi. As a decimal, (429.7 degrees). And the question did say to the nearest tenth, so I have rounded correctly. So notice again, I finished the question, I reread it again because, oh, there's probably something about the rounding in there. And this time I got lucky that I rounded correctly because I really didn't read that the first time I looked at the question. Okay, questions for practice. Try 4, 5, and 7.